Afternoon, folks. Dave Canterbury with the Pathfinder School. What I have here is an original marbles woodcrafter from the 1920s, maybe even a little earlier than that. And it has a loose handle on it. I got this in trade from a buddy of mine, Marty Munson. And when I got it, it had a loose handle on it. I'm going to show you how to fix that. It's a real simple fix. It's got a little bit of a nick off the tip of the blade here. We're going to fix that too. We're going to sharpen this dude up, and we're going to have a woodcraft traditional knife from the early period in woodcrafting that we can be proud of. Again, I traded for this, so I can't tell you what the exact value of this knife would be to put a value on it of what I paid for it. But you can find old style knives very much like these at flea markets at very reasonable prices. And if you're willing to refurbish that knife, you'll have a gem of a tool. Stay with me. Okay, so as I said, this handle is loose on this knife. Back here on the back side, and you can see there's two slots here, and that's basically a bolt. So we just need to create a tool to tighten that bolt, and I sprayed it down PV Blaster to make sure it was loosened up because it is brass and I didn't want to tear it up too bad. My idea was to use a pair of needle nose pliers to tighten that up, but I had to grind them down a little bit on a grinder to make them fit properly. But now they fit right in those two tabs, and they'll allow me to tighten that bolt. So we'll get all this handle material straight where we want it, and we'll put that tool in there, and then we'll just screw this down tight. If we've got that tool down in there good, we're not going to have to worry about stripping that out. And we'll just make it nice and tight. Now, a little bit of Loctite on that definitely wouldn't hurt anything. And you may find one of these that you're missing a couple of these pieces out of, or maybe they've broken or something, and you can still tighten that handle down on top of that. And if you had to, you could grind a little bit of this off if you wanted to, but I'm just going to leave it sticking up. But I think once it dries, I am going to dump some Loctite in there just to make sure that thing does not come loose again over time. Okay, now this thing had just a little chip off the end of the blade, and I barely touched that thing with a bench grinder right on the top. I don't even think I can zoom in on it good enough for you to see it, but I barely touched it with a bench grinder, and we got a razor sharp point on there again. Okay, folks, well, I apologize about the mowers in the background. I've got a class this weekend, and we got some work being done out here right now, prepping for that. So we've got our handle straightened out, and we've got our point straightened out. Now we just need to kind of take care of the blade and dress everything up. A sheath was pretty easy. One of these normal Condor sheaths that we saw at the Pathfinder School fits it just perfect. So the sheath was not an expensive option either. Any old leather sheath would work probably. I'm just going to take this metal eraser and I'm going to clean this blade up a little bit. Obviously I don't want to get rid of all the patina, but I do want to get rid of any light surface rust that might be on here. And I want to make sure I can see that logo. It's got a patent on it right here. It says Patent 1916 USA. Like I said, this thing was released in about the 1920s period for woodcrafting by Marbles. About the same time they released another knife and a compass geared toward the woodsman. So we'll just take this metal eraser. It's called an eraser. You can get these on the internet. And it just basically is a rust eraser. It gets rid of rust. It doesn't really get rid of your patina, but it gets any surface rust off your knife that you might have on there. We'll get that cleaned off real good and wiped down before we do any sharpening. Okay. Marbles number 5, Gladstone, Michigan, USA. Patent 1916. Alright. We got her cleaned up pretty well there. Got a little bit of rust in these thumb grooves here. A little thumb jimping that's on this knife. It does have a narrowed spine here, probably for gutting and skinning, gutting more than anything else, and cutting up game. There's no really woodcraft reason to have that on there. So this was a straight up woodsman type design. I'm not going to worry about shining up this pommel too much. Get this thing on the stones and get it going here. I suspect that this knife would be really, really well suited to wood carving and wood crafting with this grind and this upswept belly It would also be very good for skinning tasks, things of that nature, processing game. And I suspect that's what the knife was designed for to begin with. You see a lot of other knives that have this type profile from that period, and other type knives that were specifically made for butchering type tasks. There is a very upswept model of the Ontario Old Hickory butcher knife. I've also seen an Alaskan types, or excuse me, a Canadian type skinning knife recently in a museum that also was very indicative of that upswept belly like that. So I would say that that was a very good design of the time for processing game. All right, let's see if she's ready to do the job. That's a piece of pine. Guys, I appreciate you joining me here today for this quick look at refurbishing this old Marbles No. 5 woodcraft knife. Again, this will be a dandy piece of my collection. Very, very traditional, very period correct for the woodcrafting era. But beyond that, knives like this are not expensive if you can find them at flea markets, yard sales, and things of that nature. You may not find a Marbles No. 5, but you'll find a similar type knife with the stacked leather handles, the bolt on the back side, and those knives can be refurbished and repurposed and be used again today just like they were in the 20s and 30s. I'm Dave Canterbury at the Pathfinder School. I appreciate you joining me out for another video today. I thank you for your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, for our business, for our sponsors, affiliates, instructors, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Thanks, guys.